Happy Monday. Welcome back, guys. Welcome to the Female Founder World podcast. My name is Jasmine Garnsworthy. If you're new to the pod, Female Founder World is where we tap female entrepreneurs to teach other female entrepreneurs how to start and scale their business. In this episode, I'm chatting with Cyndi Ramirez Fulton. She is the founder of a company called Chillhouse. If you haven't heard of them, the tagline for Chillhouse is a modern destination for self-care. And originally they started out as a very cool, very modern hybrid concept store that was kind of a hybrid between a spa and a cafe. And since then, they have expanded out into a full product line. They are a e-commerce business. They have retailers. And Cyndi is an absolute legend. You guys are going to love her. So let's jump in. Cyndi, let's start right at the beginning of your Chillhouse story. What did you see happening in the market and in the beauty space that made you think Chillhouse would be a good business? And kind of how did this idea come to you?
I don't know if I thought it could be a good business. I just thought it was a needed business. So the story is really that I was trying to get massages with my husband one day in New York City, and we realized that we didn't love our options. And it just started this conversation about spas and the kind of very split down the middle thing that was happening between the two. It was either a very luxurious experience or it was either super low end. And there wasn't a spa concept that sat right in the middle and felt like it was speaking to kind of our generation. And it just, that's kind of how it all started. And we kind of brainstormed a few different names and where it would be and what it would look like, from interiors to branding. And it all kind of just came together within a year or so. But it was really at the end of the day, this manifestation of just how I grew up. So my mom is an esthetician, and I guess just watching her be an entrepreneur and doing her thing within her own business, I always felt little I don't want to say bored, but I don't know if I can I don't know if I can find another word for it. I was a little bored by the spa industry, to be honest, because, she ran things a certain way and it's fine and it works for her even now, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't for my generation. It wasn't for a younger girl. So I've always been why, I want to go relax. I'm young and whatever, but why is there not a place that spoke to me? As someone that wasn't financially well off, as someone that, was liked trendy things. There were so many other concepts opening up, the boutique fitness thing was super big at the time. And some single service concepts started to open up, paydays and things like the Now in LA. And I was but why is there not a spa that really speaks to my generation? And so that was kind of this long-winded explanation of this as to how it all sort of came to be. And that was about 5 years ago that we conceptualized it. And then a year later, we opened in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And it's kind of just grown and become this bigger sort of, it's its own little beast. It's just so fun to have seen it evolve in so many different ways. I never anticipated it would be where it is now or what it is now when we first opened it.
Yeah, I mean, you're a fully fledged omni-channel brand now with a flagship location. You've got the e-commerce business and retail partners. But back in those really early days when you had the idea, did you do anything kind of formal to validate the idea, or were you acting more on gut feel and intuition based on your own knowledge and experience in this space?
Yeah, it was a lot of gut. It was a lot of what do I want? What do I see missing? We didn't want to come in and sort of do every single spa service right away. We wanted to be really tactful, but even what we did was very ambitious on its own. When we first launched, we had a cafe, nail services, cafe, and massage services. And, they all kind of needed their own separate dedication, their own separate sort of programming and all that. And so I didn't anticipate the amount of work it would be going into it. I was we'll just open it and it'll all be great. But as it turns out, all of those three services are very individual type businesses that require very different people to operate them and all that. So we like hired consultants kind of like right away. And that really helped sort of validate the concept a bit more, just having people from positions of authority to kind of go in there and be like, okay, this is how we would run it here and all that. And just making it all kind of come together seamlessly was like, I guess, the challenge, right? And as it turns out, we ended up outgrowing the space because the concept was a little bit too ambitious for the space that we were in. So we ended up kind of graduating to a bigger location eventually, and then shut down the LES location during the pandemic. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot of conversations. I mean, when we first launched, while we were trying to open, we were fundraising. And so it was a lot of obviously conversations with friends and angels and people that were just super in the know about either hospitality businesses or even like just unique startups, like innovative startups. So everyone seemed really excited about it. But of course, with anything that felt kind of like new or like you were modernizing an area that was a little sort of antiquated prior to you opening up, there were a lot of questions. Like, why are you doing so many things? Like, why don't you focus on one thing? Like, that's been always one of the biggest pieces of feedback, has always been like, why do you guys do so much? Like, you should stay focused. You should do one thing. You should do one thing and do it well. And I'm like, I like lifestyle businesses at the end of the day. I'm not like trying to be the entrepreneur that gets rich off of one product. Like, that's not my goal in life. I want to create something that is meaningful and like creates community and creates excitement around a brand, not just like one solo thing. So that was always my stance, and I stood by it. And like, of course, it ended up kind of paying off at the end. We're still growing, but it's only, you get that feedback and you kind of take it with a grain of salt and continue doing your thing.
Look, I honestly do think that the harder the problem is to solve, the bigger the payoff. And if what you were doing was simple, everyone would be doing it and it would already be done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least that's the goal.
What really stood out to me in the early days of Chillhouse, when I kind of was first introduced to this space in the Lower East Side, there was such a strong sense of community. I think I used to go to your kind of morning events that you would have there, and the brand was so distinctive. And it just seems like it's so tied in with kind of like who you are. And I don't know if that's just because you've done an amazing job kind of like branding the business and also yourself as the business has grown. But for you personally, is that community building and branding skill, is it intuitive, or is it something that you have kind of needed to work on and hone intentionally over the years?
I think I've definitely honed it in like from like the moment I started my career. One of the parts of business that I kind of leaned in on a lot was events and community and PR and partnerships and that sort of thing. And that at the end of the day is just communications and people, like just having people skills and being able to connect the dots and saying this person should meet this person and being a connector of sorts. I've always loved being a connector. So prior to Chill House, I had a site called Taste of Style, and that allowed me to connect with all sorts of incredible entrepreneurs and creatives, artists. And because of that network, I've been able to hit up a lot of really incredible people and been like, can you work with me on this? Or, can I hire you for this one project? Or do you have access to this person? It's just that to me is like, I don't have like a very strong education background. I went to school for fashion marketing. So, and I dropped out. So I don't have like all these inherent skills from training. It was more so just going with my gut and leaning on what I was naturally gravitating towards in my career as it started evolving. And so all of those experiences kind of ended up trickling into my work now. And yeah, of course, it's kind of hard to just stick to one thing when you become an entrepreneur. Like, obviously, that's one element that I think I'm still the driving force on, but I've had to expand what I do and my area of expertise and interest, I'd say, since opening up Chill House.
I touched on it before, but your branding is awesome. I love it. For folks who are kind of early on their In the early days of establishing their visual identity, what kind of learnings can you share about the process of creating the look and feel for Chill House? Were you personally super involved? Did you outsource everything to an agency? How did that play out?
Obviously, they did an incredible job, but it was all driven by my inspiration. I think the really fun part about the branding process is being able to see your inspo and your thoughts, like your creative sort of vision in different iterations of it. So that's what I loved more about the process more than anything. Like, obviously I'm not like a technical designer, but now, we've been able to kind of carry on without an agency per se because we understand the brand so inherently. And so that's been able to kind of continue on without an agency. But when you're first starting off, your mind is kind of all over the place with what you want, and you have so much inspiration that you can drive from. So it's really nice to take all of that, give it to them and be like, what can we do with this? What's next here? How do we turn this into a logo or a color palette or patterns or even like photography? Like, what is our vision mood board overall? So they were really great at showing a few different versions of it. And honestly, Chill House could have gone in a totally different direction just based off of the three different things. And the really fun part is like, you're able to sort of take pieces from the three different styles and then start piecing it all together, and then somehow they kind of blend all these different styles into one, and that's what happened with Chill House. So I remember there being a huge sort of air of like Parisian elegance happening at one point. And I was like, this feels a little upscale. We need to bring it back, hone it in, like get it a little bit more youthful, less like Maison Kitsune, like less high end looking, more like everyday modern New York, like girl on the go, but also aspirational and clean. Because at the end of the day, it was very important for us to feel very like a palate cleanser, like fresh, a little bit California, cool, chill, just because we want to bring that energy into New York a little bit sometimes.
Need
So
it.
it was, yeah, for sure. Your Aussie energy, all of that is needed. No, like blacks and grays and like we wanted to really lighten it up. So it was just a really, really fun process, and one that it continues to excite me. Like if I ever started another company, that's like the fun part. And then, the headaches and all of that come afterwards.
That is the fun part. It feels like actually a magic show when designers take your inspiration and then they come back with this amazing visual identity.
Totally. Exactly.
We have a lot of listeners who are just getting started in creating their brand, and you can really spend, like the spectrum of what you can spend on design and visual identity is never ending. You can spend almost nothing and get something on, create something in Canva, or you can spend 100 grand. What do you think should be invested early on in visual identity and branding for someone wanting to launch a consumer product?
I mean, it depends. I mean, budget is unique to everyone. I set aside anywhere from like 10,000 to 30,000 for a branding agency, and really know the difference in what you may get with that dollar. Like it may mean like a less services, or you may just end up with a team that's a little bit more junior. And so it really depends what you're trying to accomplish. But I feel like we accomplished a lot for a pretty good rate. And I think it's really important to invest that kind of money if you want to put a really beautiful consumer brand together that starts off strong from the get-go. I mean, I know there are a lot of, like, if we're talking strictly products here, like there are a lot of products that just based on their formula alone and like this cult like following they amassed have been able to do a lot with very minimal branding, fancy branding. That might not always be the case for every brand coming out, right? And there's so much competition. So I think it's like, set yourself apart. There are a lot of retailers that don't even sample your stuff, which is crazy, and just like put you on their shelves or put you in their online, in their .coms. So a lot of it is visual, it truly is. And they see it, they're like, oh, this looks like it'd be cool, like, and our consumers would literally just buy it because it looks pretty. And it's true. So I think it's super important. And unless, you have like a very unique, I guess, one sort of identifying hero ingredient or something that you're really leaning on that's like kind of the star of the show and you want it to shine, then maybe branding it like crazy is not for you. Like there are incredible beauty brands like Vintner's Daughter, for example. They have very simple branding. It's nothing like they probably didn't hire like a $30,000 branding agency. Maybe they did for like their web and stuff, but like for a simple classic logo, it's very simple, right? So, but they've been able to do so much because they have a very unique product. So it depends, right? So it's subjective. I would never want to tell people to spend like $50,000 on an agency when it may not make sense for them and they don't. So it's all subjective. But for us, I feel like in that range was like I felt like that Chill House was deserving of like that kind of range. You know what I mean?
Okay, I want to fast forward now to 2020. Obviously, a hectic time for all businesses, but particularly those who have physical spaces. And I can imagine, hospitality businesses as well, particularly tough. But you guys are still here. You've expanded your product offering and e-commerce, and it looks like Chill House is thriving. And I just want to know how you pull that off because you also had a baby in that time. And during lockdown in 2020, every time it was extended in New York, I honestly was just watching the news thinking, oh my God, poor Cyndi. It must be so stressful.
Oh, you're so sweet. No, it was devastating and it was like the most stressful time of my life. And I joke about it now a little bit, like I've deleted it from my memory bank and it's created, definitely there's definitely some trauma there that one day I'll have to unpack because it definitely was a time that I questioned everything and I had a moment where I was like, do I just give up? But because you just didn't know, not because I would give up on something so easily, but it's just we had no answers and you just literally had to rely on your gut and pray for the best. I mean, how did we come out of it? A few ways. I mean, big kudos to my husband who was able to get all the PPP loans and all that stuff. I think that was super helpful, of course, just to get out of it. Our landlord was also super kind and generous and understanding, and they worked with us a lot to make sure that we weren't coming out of this with a ton of debt. And so, yeah, I think those two things were one of like the most alleviating factors of it all. And then, of course, our products, so we launched Chill Tips in August of 2020, right around the time I was giving birth to Hendrix. I think we actually launched on his due date. So then like a week later, while we were launching this thing, he was born and I was on maternity leave, but they just did really well from the get-go. And we were really lucky with that because it was like our first official sort of like semi-formulated product. I mean, it's not like skincare where you're actually formulating, but it was like our first sort of packaged product that we were putting out in bulk. Prior to Chill Tips, we had only candles and merch, really, and like face tools, things like that. But never had we ever packaged something to that sort of volume. And then I want to say like maybe a week or two in, Urban Outfitters contacted us. So that was an immediate, like quick sort of win. And, they've turned out to be like one of our biggest retail partners so far. We were only about a year in now. But they've opened up a lot of doors too. Now we're in Free People, ASOS. We're gearing up to launch in Revolve in September. So we just got really lucky on the product end. Any revenue that was compromised because of the pandemic, we've sort of been able to retroactively get that revenue back up because of our products. And that was something that, we had sort of accounted for prior to the pandemic, but we weren't really planning on this level of success and this level of growth. And so we're very fortunate in that sense. And then, of course, our community, as soon as we were open, they just came back and they were very supportive. And all throughout the pandemic, I feel like I'm indebted to them because they were all very, very supportive. They shopped our products, they shopped our merch, they bought gift cards. Like, it was wild to see that sort of community really come through in a time of need. And that's, I like to joke and I say, like, I love New York for that because I feel like they were so good to small businesses. It's like nowhere else in the world, I don't think, had this element of small business community mindset during the pandemic than New York. So felt really grateful to be where we were and, have the network we did, for sure.
And for people who missed it, your chill tips are like press-on nails with super cute designs.
Yes, they are modern nail art press-ons. So, modernizing those drugstore press-on brands a little bit.
They have to be a bestseller for you guys. The product itself is so shareable. I honestly, like, between TikTok and Instagram stories, I feel like I'm seeing them everywhere at the moment. So let's talk about chill tips now and kind of how they have brought the chill house experience all over the US.
Totally. And that's for like, I just want to be very clear about it. That's not why we created it, and I think I don't want to get into that sort of trap. I see so many brands doing things like that. And like, while I would love for every product to, like, be naturally like viral, it's just, that shouldn't be the only way you create products. You want to make sure that they're actually effective and, come from a good place. Right. So our press-ons, they are very viral, and that's because nail art is something people obviously love, and it's such a huge part of our brand DNA, our businesses, our stores. That's one of the most requested services is nail art gel. Like tier 1, I believe, is probably our number one service across the board from LES to Soho. And so those designs have now transpired into being on our press-ons. And so it has allowed us to really branch out beyond the New York market, because we get so many girls in our DMs saying, hey, I live in Houston, I live in Austin, I live in Miami, I live in San Francisco, Portland, whatever. Please come here. Please open up here. And I'm like, I would love to, but it's not that easy. And the press-ons and hopefully at future products allow us to give people a taste of what they're missing in the store, and being able to package that and deliver that to them and allow them to do these like sort of like mini services within like 15 minutes and squeeze in that self-care moment for themselves. Like, that is something that I'm dying to do. So we did that with the press-ons, and that's kind of what we're like, our forward moving path is that, like, creating products that allow us to do that. And also stores, of course.
That's smart. Yeah, not everyone can go to a chill house destination, but of course, they see you online and they still want a piece of that experience. What marketing did you do early on in the launch of new product and of those chill tips, and kind of like what really worked?
I'm trying to think what was like the thing that popped off for us. I think it was just a really like perfect storm of marketing activity. So obviously, between newsletter, even text, SMS marketing is great. We love doing that a lot now, where we give people first access to our drops if they're text subscribers or SMS subscribers. So I feel, and we see a lot of conversions that, like, they're like the most hyped customers, the most loyal, are the ones that end up signing up to your text, right? Because they don't mind being bothered that intrusively. So you automatically know that those are really great customers. And then, yeah, I think it was just like the perfect storm, like I said. So influencer, PR, like it just all snowballed. And of course, like the virality, like you said, of the tips themselves are just like, them on their own are marketing drivers, right? We have girls with, small followings, but like leave a really big impression on their, 500 followers. I'm sure they convert if they post on their feed or if they do a review on their stories. Like, we've just had so many really amazing organic coverage, social coverage of our nails, from reviews to just, tutorials to like girls like matching their cute little like Gen Z outfits with their like checked out nails. Like it's just so inspiring and fun to watch everyone like do their thing and like become like content creators through like their nails, which is like really fun. So I love that. And we definitely want to lean in a lot more on like ambassador programs and referral programs. We have an ambassador program. It's pretty small right now, but we want to open it up to anyone really. But it was originally like much more like content creator centric, less like anyone can join. So that also I feel like is really effective, but also allows us to get beautiful content, like very like specific content that we may need for products, if for ads, all that. So yeah, and of course digital ads are annoyingly a big part of the marketing mix, but with that new iOS, I'd say it's just kind of like an eye roll headache situation lately.
Are you guys working with an agency or are you like in-house for digital ads?
No, we work with an agency. But we're like obviously handling all of the creative in-house. So it's been a bit of it's a beast for sure. And, if some things don't perform, you have to like reconcept and do something else. And so we have like a really great freelance creative team that helps us with anything from photography to video to editing. We have like a group of people that were like, okay, do this isn't, and then it all kind of comes together. But it's like managing all this creative gets to be a bit of a beast, especially like ads are very different than like organic content. So organic content may not translate into perfect digital ads, of course. So it's been interesting to try to learn essentially how to be like full on advertisers. Like went from being just like organic content creators to being like, this is Mad Men up in here, you know? Now we have to think of like the perfect copy to have someone swipe up, like voted best press-ons by blah, 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 blah. It seems so cheesy, but it's the stuff that it works and it converts, and you can't just only rely on growth with the community that you built organically, right? And while we have really incredible, significant audience, that we've amassed from the past few years, you just have to keep growing. So it's always interesting trying to pitch yourself for the first time, because I'm like, people don't know about our spa. They don't know who we like. How do you come across? How do you like share that message? How do you like for the first time? How do you say what you are for the first time to someone?
That's a tricky one.
Mm-hmm. Like there's so much you don't know about us. It's been one of our biggest like conversations internally is like how to continue to position ourselves.
At what point did you actually start looking at investing in digital ads? Was it once you focused more on the e-commerce presence and the products, or were you using ads for the store locations as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we launched the flagship, we definitely did some like local targeting and things like that. But it's not until you're a product-based business that I would invest too much. But of course, you have to reach a New York audience. So I would still do localized digital ads and retargeting to people that land on your site and things like that. But it only was fueled really when we had products, because it had to be. You just have to.
Shifting gears a little bit, I saw that Chillhouse launched a membership program a couple of years ago for people who are regulars at the New York space. And I'm just curious about how that membership model fit into your kind of community building strategy. Was it a community building strategy? How did it fit into your business model? And in your experience, is it worth kind of creating that specialized programming and those offers just for a small group of customers?
Yeah, I mean, we launched it a few years ago, actually, and it's great. It took a bit of a hit, obviously, during COVID. A lot of our members either moved out or lost their jobs, or they were like, you know, work's been a little tricky lately. So I just don't feel like whatever their reason, they had a valid reason. It wasn't because they didn't love Chill House, but, it's been tricky trying to do things around community building with members because you can't really do much in store. And that was like one of the things that I thought was the most unique about our membership was having these like really great panels called Matcha Mornings monthly. We would invite them sometimes to events that were like, we'd have so many buyouts from other brands, and sometimes we'd extend invites to them, or we'd have random like brands or retailers ask us if we can invite our members to their events. Like it was very in person centric, the membership, outside of obviously getting your services at a discounted rate with being the main sort of, I guess, hook. There were a lot of community building elements also associated, like those events or like other like sort of unlocking discounts and things like that. So when we had to slow down on all that, it's kind of like, now we're at the point where we want to ramp it back up and really make it a bigger part of what we do. But to me, it was super important because putting that extra effort into doing something special for the people that invest in you every month, I think is super important. Like I've had people that have similar businesses ask me like, is it worth it for you guys? I'm like, yeah, at the end of the day, of course, like maybe it takes more effort for us to do unique things like that for a very small pool of people, not extended to like our entire community, but they deserve it because like I said, they're investing X amount every month. And it's not just about, it shouldn't be just about the discount. It's about the understanding that they can take that money somewhere else. So like, what can we do for you? The value add, right? What's that extra value add? So yeah, I mean, but from like a financial standpoint, I mean, it's a great way to know what your monthly revenue is going to be for just like from that alone. So we've built it into our business model because it is very attractive to like investors, and you understand cash flow a little bit better when you have something that's so like cyclical. And then of course, like our regular a la carte menu, I think is super important forever as well, because we have so many out of towners that come and visit us. And it's not just about building a business that's only for the locals, because we think it's important now that we do have products that we are friendly with people that are fans of what we do and have always wanted to visit our stores. Right. So it's kind of like playing nice with both but really remembering that at the crux of everything, our New Yorkers or like our locals, like there are like ride or dies, and we have to take care of them. So, and when we grow and open up other locations, we'll do the same for the locals there, So that's the fun part, I think, about the membership. You can really think about marketing from like a very local small business perspective, which, I think is super important as we grow, just to continue to have that sort of small biz feel, no matter what, no matter how big we are.
Okay, so you mentioned new locations there. What is next? Are you focused on new locations, or are you going to be building out the product line? Kind of what's next for Chillhouse?
No, it's definitely both. We're ambitious. I think we've always been, it's been a slow growth for us because transparently it's been quite hard to grow fast. We're not the type of people that want to grow for the sake of growing, like get VC funding just for the hell of it and dilute our equity and all that. We've played it really slowly. And now that we have the traction that I think puts us in a good valuation, I think now we're a little bit more like, okay, I think we're ready. We feel confident that we know exactly what the next few steps should look like based on our learnings, our failures, our successes. Like we've gone through so much as a business now that we really know exactly where we need to go. And I think in the past, we've just been testing. It was always just like, will this stick? Will this land? Da, 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 da. And now we know what will land and what won't land. So both stores and products will be big parts of our future growth moving forward. I think stores will continue to be as important. I mean, I think it's the authenticity of the Chillhouse brand is ingrained in the store and the services and the professionals that do perform all of these services, all like our team or people on the ground, I think is super important to continue that that level of authenticity and connectivity with the people that are the proprietors of Chill, right? So, yeah, hopefully more stores. I mean, right now we're currently fundraising. So if all goes well and we close the round that we want to close, then we should be able to open up more stores in the very near future, and then of course extend our product line. So can't really say too much yet, but that's the plan. And if for some reason we have a hard time, then we'll just continue doing our thing slowly but surely, and we'll get there eventually.
Oh, good luck with the raise. I hope that goes really well.
Thank you.
Cyndi, the last thing that I ask everyone who comes onto the show is to give a recommendation. It can be a learning that you've had throughout your kind of founder experience. It can be a book that you've loved, something to kind of help other folks along the way to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had good books. I mean, I have like all the like fancy books, like known to man, and I barely get through them. Not because I'm not interested. I just, whatever, I'm not like a big reader outside of just like, I like thrillers and like, I like trashy, like beach reads, and like that reading to me is like escapism. And then when I'm working, I'm working. But I'd say the biggest tool for me has been just to connect with people that a mix of people that are obviously maybe a couple years behind my current career path, or like, because it's important to kind of pay it forward, of course. But then my biggest tools honestly have been people that are like 3 years ahead of me, and just asking them all the questions. Like, I am indebted to women like Sarah Levy, like from Y7. I mean, we have amazing advisors on our board. Divya Gugnani, who is the CEO of Wander Beauty, who's literally like one of the smartest women you'll ever meet. Sophia Maruso was literally our first advisor, and she came guns blazing with advice and intros and all of that. So it's always, to me, just creating an ecosystem of women and people. It doesn't only have to be women, of course, but women are naturally really great at supporting each other. Of creating an ecosystem of people that are just just naturally excited to help you. Because, and I'm always wary to say, get advisors, like go after that dream mentor. It should feel natural. It should feel like you're doing something of value back to them, and you're giving them something in return. It should feel very organic. I get people in my DMs all the time, like, I'd love to pick your brain and things like that. And it's like, I can't do that, with that. Like, I need to connect with people that I need to get to that next step too. And like, I could barely fit those people in when I want to, because I have a baby, I have business to run, whatever. So I think it's really important to just realize, like, go to those networking events. Don't go after the woman on the panel. Talk to the girl next to you. See what's happening. Where's she at in her career? I think those are the people that you're going to grow with more than. I think it's important to have expanders and follow women that inspire you. I think all of that is obviously super important in our career journey. But the people that are going to actually get you to that next level are going to be the people sitting next to you at those events, right? So those have been like my key instruments in leveling up and growing my business.
You know what? That is such great advice. We hosted a workshop a little while ago with Ali Kriegsman. She's the co-founder of Bulletin, and it was about building your professional network, and it was really well received. I got so many great comments from the female founder world community who attended and just, loved it.
It's always about providing value back to that person. Like, like I've mentioned Sarah a bunch in interviews, and I feel like we're just super supportive of each other's businesses. Like, I'll do things for her that I would typically charge someone else for, you know what I mean? Like, and vice versa. So knowing that you have to create that camaraderie with a big chunk of people, for sure. You have to be willing to give as much as you take. And I think one of the things that I didn't even realize I was doing this, but I did it because I was just genuinely curious. I mean, similar to what you're doing now is I created content around individuals. Like I would have had a podcast if podcasts were out a few years ago. I mean, I've had the opportunity to have a podcast recently, but I don't know. It sounds exhausting. I love listening to them. I don't always want to host, So, but that was one of the great ways that I would connect with women, was being like, I have this platform. It's not that big, but like, I'm going to pretend it is, and I'll feature you and I'll make you feel special because I'll ask you all like really great questions, and I'll like, take beautiful pictures of you. I had this amazing photographer that interned for me at the time that was actually super talented and would like create like gorgeous content. So all of that was really, I think, instrumental in like the very beginnings of my career, and having an organic connection to these people that ended up like, I mean, I feel like some of these women that I featured are just in crazy career paths now, like just beyond like I'm just like blown away by what they've accomplished since they've been on Taste of Style. So it's, that kind of growth I think is really fun to witness and be a part of it.
That is such great advice. Cyndi, you are an absolute legend. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Oh, how amazing is Cyndi? Honestly, she is so great and so forthcoming with all of her advice. And you know that we love that at Female Founder World. I hope you all really loved that episode. If you did, I'm going to ask you to leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts.